Get ready for the exciting showdown, the biggest names, the toughest competition, and the most thrilling moments. From the gridiron to hardwood, and from the pitch to the track. Join us for Sports Central, the most electrifying sports program on television, every weekday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon on Spectrum Television. Sports Central, your home for sports.
An excellent morning to return to talk about sports development all across the globe. Good morning and welcome to Sports Central, live and exclusive to Spectrum Television. And I am Utabe David, coming from the hills of when we saw first games, especially for some top-seeded players yesterday at the US Open. Carlos Alcaraz, of course, had his first game at the singles category in the US Open. We'll take a look at all the players at the ATP and the WTA, seeing the likes of Venus Williams. Unfortunately, the first try at the singles was actually, of course, knocked out of this particular competition. We look at what's happening in the world of football this particular morning. Liverpool were in action yesterday, a 5-goal thriller at St. James's Park. And, of course, Liverpool getting that particular victory just at the edge of time before the final whistle of that particular game. We'll look at the CHAN tournament as well, with some semi-final games expected. Morocco still looking forward to win their third CHAN title. Has been a conversation for them all through the entire duration of the tournament. We'll also take a look at transfers with, of course, the deadline fast approaching. Monday would be the end of the transfer window, especially for this summer. We'll take a look at who's moving and who is staying ahead of Monday. We'll talk about all of these stories extensively, but first of all, let's bring you up to speed with some big development making rounds in the exciting world of sports. Welcome to the show.
Broadening your horizon is what every living being not only genuinely desires, but heartily pursues and intentionally invests in. For in the gathering of men, only those whose minds are in tune with the
Well, let's start the conversation from the world of tennis, where Carlos Alcaraz debuted a striking new book court on Monday that made its rounds of social media. But on court, the second seed kept things business as usual to win his first round match at the US Open. Sporting a Bordeaux-colored sleeveless top, the Spaniard downed Big 7 American Riley Opelka 6-4, 7-5, 6-4 to begin his campaign at Flushing Meadows, where this fortnight Alcaraz is aiming for his second US Open crown and sixth major trophy overall. With the win, Carlos Alcaraz stays on course in the battle for world #1 if the Spaniard matches or betters Yannick Sinner's results. Alcaraz will leave New York atop the ATP rankings. Carlos Alcaraz and rival Sinner could meet in a double prize championship match with the US Open trophy and world #1 honors on the line. But with plenty of tennis remaining in the season's final major, Alcaraz's attention will first be on a different Italian, his second-round opponent, Mattia Bellucci. Alcaraz will look to avoid a repeat of his stunning second-round exit last year when he fell to Botic van der Zalzap in straight sets. Away from that, now still talking about tennis this morning. It was a case of Venus Williams making a spirited return to the US Open after a year away, taking a set off number 11 seed Karolina Muchova before falling in the first round on Monday night. Despite the loss, the crowd at the Ottawa Stadium was treated to glimpses of vintage Venus. The two-time US Open champions' grips, ball striking and powerful serve were on full display, especially in the second set, but it briefly looked like she might pull off a stunning upset. Ultimately, Muchova, last year's semi-finalist, proved too strong on this occasion for the seven-time Grand Slam winner, closing out a 6-3, 2-6, 6-1 victory in exactly 2 hours. The result marks Williams' fourth consecutive first-round exit in New York. This was Williams' 25th US Open appearance, coming just a month after she returned to competition with a surprise win over then world number 35 Patton Stearns in Washington, D.C., following a 16-month absence. To the world of cricket now, where female Yellow Greens coach Lekeo Yede has released the final 14-player squad for the 2026 ICC T20 Women's World Cup Africa qualifier, which will take place in Namibia from August 28 to September 7. Oyede made a tough call of dropping some of his established players, including Captain Favour Siegbe, Esther Sandy, and Abigail Ibobie, as Peculiar Agboya will lead the team to Namibia. Nigeria's captain to the Under-19 Women's T20 World Cup in Malaysia earlier this year, Pete Lucky, also tops the list of players for the assignment. Most of the other players are from the team that excelled in Malaysia earlier this year, including Lilian Ude, Shola Dekunle, Kehinde Musa, Peace Usen, Victory Igbenedion, Anointed Akibe, Christabel Chukunoye, and Omosigbe Egwakun. Wickets keeper Sarah Item will also serve as vice-captain, while the team has one debutant, Oseande Omokobio. Fierce Beta, Salomi Sunday, and Rachel Sampson completes the list. Away from that, Rwanda's head coach Abdella Morcho has released a strong 27-man squad ahead of the crucial 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifying clash with Nigeria. The Amavubi will take on the three-time African champions in the next round of qualifiers with hopes of securing a positive result. Amrucha's list, unveiled on Monday, features mostly African-based players, alongside a handful plying their trade outside the continent. Rwanda currently sits second in their qualifying group with 8 points, and after the Nigeria fixture, will square up against Zimbabwe. Still talking football, Rio Ngumoha came off the bench to snatch victory deep into stoppage time as Premier League champions Liverpool edged past 10-man Newcastle on an astonishing night at St. James Park. Fellow substitute Will Usula's first goal of the season looked to have completed a famous comeback by the Magpies, who had Anthony Gordon sent off in the first half stoppage time and trailed 2-0 seconds after the break. However, Ngumoha's intervention in the 10th minute of stoppage time denied them a priceless point in the stunning 3-2 win. The Reds were already leading through Ryan Gravenberch's 35th minute strike against the run of play after surviving an early onslaught when Gordon was dismissed for a late challenge on Virgil van Dijk, and Hugo Ekitike's strike second half time looked to have killed off the game. As the travelling fans sang "Hand him over," Newcastle, a reference to their club's pursuit of Alexander Isak on the night when Magpies chairman Yesaya Romayan was in the stands. Bruno Guimaraes reduced the deficit with a 75th minute header, and Osula's late equalizer sparked a frenzied conclusion. But that's all we have for you in Sports Wrap Up at this time. We take a very short break. When we return, we'll have an extensive conversation in the world of sports. Do stay with us.
your horizon is what every living being not only genuinely desires, but heartily pursues and intentionally invests in. For in the gathering of men, only those whose minds are in tune with the dynamics of the past, present, and future innovations, inventions, politics, and governance are respected. We are Spectrum Television, and broadening your horizon is our obsession. Risk on your decoder now to connect Spectrum Television on the frequency 12589, symbol rate 26250. That is frequency 12589, symbol rate 26250. Polarization horizontal, and join our online community at spectrumtvlive.ng. For further enquiries, please call 0704 704 5417707. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
The depth of knowledge, fun, and entertainment you experience on Spectrum Television can never be overstated, especially when you get them all at once. At Spectrum Television, we start your day with insightful political and social discussion, a spotlight on Africa.
Broadening your horizon is what every living being not only genuinely desires, but heartily pursues and intentionally invests in. For in the gathering of men, only those whose minds are in tune with the dynamics of the past, present, and future innovations, inventions, politics, and governance are respected. We are Spectrum Television, and broadening your horizon is our obsession. Risk on your decoder now to connect connect Spectrum Television on the frequency 12589, symbol rate 26250. That is frequency 12589, symbol rate 26250. Polarization horizontal, and join our online community at spectrumtvlive.ng. For further inquiries, please call 0704 158 5642 or 0704 541 7707. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to another exciting time, another exciting day to talk about the best of stories in the world of sports. It is Sports Central, and my name is Blyden Okem. Well, the guys are seated with me, ready for this one, the excitement that comes with it, and definitely we'll talk about all the details that comes with it. First, we'll begin from the US Open, and afterwards, we'll transcend to athletics and also talk about the best that is coming from the world of football. Well, multiple excitement from the US Open has been the likes of Carlos Alcaraz qualifying to the next round, but some sort of conflict of banter or situation where Dani Medvedev losing against the Open in the French international Bonzi. And this one had some traction in that conversation. We'll get a look at details of it. Jack Draper also winning, and despite vomiting back-to-back at the US Open. Last year we saw Jack Draper vomit in court, and this year similarly also vomiting despite beating his opponents. Well, more of a conversation would be the attention that's been given to athletes and footballers amid the death of Peter Ofai. We'll talk about it, what an ex-international is saying regarding the clamor that government should take care of athletes even further. I mean, well, it's having funny tonight. So good to see you this morning. Exciting times ahead. I missed the show yesterday due to unforeseen circumstances, but good to be back. I'm back as if I never left.
Well, an exciting morning to return, of course, returning on the heels of, when we're still having, some seeded players having their first game at the US Open, making a whole lot of sense right here. I think this is where we're beginning to see top competition, because those who had the first round bye definitely, challenging their opponents at this particular time, and it makes a whole lot of sense as well. 5-goal thriller against Newcastle, one of the matches that stood out for me yesterday in the English Premier League, and this definitely shows their intentions of defending the title they won last season.
Well, Fanitina, good morning. So good to see you. That match was a stake. Whoever wins it has Alexander Isak. Somehow, Liverpool won this one. What are we expecting from the camp would be the conversation, but good to see you this morning.
So exciting day to be back. I think that match further makes the fact that Liverpool wants to get Alexander Isak more difficult, because now the man Eddie Howe has lost another striker. Talking about Anthony Gordon. 3 matches now. So it's definitely he needs a striker, and he's not going to let the only striker leave at this point.
Well, not going to let the only striker leave at this point is that conversation from front so early. But first, before we get to talk about all of these possibilities, the world of football, we'll try to see how we do a quick job when it has to do with the world of tennis. We'll start from there, the US Open taking center stage, and beautifully so. We'll begin with the fact that Carlos Alcaraz started the US Open campaign, business-like, beating Rally Opelka in this one, beating the US international player. A smart move, but it took 5 sets, difficult one. But one of the biggest mark in this particular game was the very fact that Carlos Alcaraz had a new haircut. In fact, I don't know if you saw the haircut. Carlos Alcaraz had quite different, not difficult. Francis Utiafo came out and said, no, that's not a good haircut for Carlos Alcaraz. That's it. And he gave a reason why he's carrying this. And he said, his brother attempted to give him a cut, and it went bad. And guess what? When it's that bad, you have to clear tailor everything off, and that's why we're saying Carlos Alcaraz are looking so different, but it didn't deter him from having a victory.
I think a new haircut, new goals, a new renewed Carlos Alcaraz. It's been long we saw Carlos Alcaraz so dominant in the first game of a competition. So probably the haircut gave him some added prowess in that particular game, because we're used to Carlos Alcaraz struggling in the early stages of competition, but yesterday was not to be so, as he comfortably defeated Riley Opelka, a very strong serving American there as well. So it's quite something to look forward to. The highlight of this game was the US fans chanting for Carlos Alcaraz, though Riley Opelka is the home favorite. It was almost as if and your home crowd is chanting for the opponent.
Yeah.
That's something to look forward to. Shows that Carlos Alcaraz is not just a Spaniard, he's a household name in tennis now. I think he's one of those players who would gradually fill the boots of the likes of Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic of this world, be all-time great. That's Carlos Alcaraz for you. I just want to see what he can do in the next match against Matia Belushi, because that's his next game in the second round. He shows you that's going to be a step higher from Riley Opelka now. And for Carlos Alcaraz, I think his goal now is to surpass Jannik Sinner as the world number one. At the end of this competition, the ranking point for the last US Open, which Jannik Sinner won, will be removed from.
Yeah, has to defend the point. Yeah,
exactly. So if Carlos Alcaraz can equal the finish of Jannik Sinner or even better it, he's going to be the world number one. So something to look forward to.
I'll put it simply, if he gets to win the tournament, then he wins it.
Well, even if he betters the same performance,
yeah, absolutely.
Semi-final, he gets it.
Absolutely. Well, let's get to see what happens even further for Carlos Alcaraz as he's thinking about becoming world number one as it stands. Well, let's talk about one player that also stood out somehow drama. There's been mark of drama at the US Open, and one of those drama has been that of vomiting. I know why I'm missing up, just wondering when I talk about drama all through it. Well, Jack Draper in this one goes through a tough test to progress to the next round, beating his opponent. Well, beating world number 127 in this one, but it wasn't just about the win. It was the fact that he vomited on court. Last year, the semi-finals when he took on Jannik Sinner, also vomited on court, lost that one, but this one was able to rally on to beat the world number 127.
Well, not so concerning looking at the quality of the opponents Jack Draper faced, because naturally you would expect Jack Draper to get the better of a player below the top 50 of the ATP rankings. But talking about why he's vomiting, maybe it could be also diet stuff, because I do not understand. If there was any cases that has to do with temperature, then it shouldn't warrant to vomiting.
Last year, he said he had some paracetamol that had some issues with his stomach. I don't know how that played out. That was a comment, but some analysts are saying maybe the pressure of tennis, just like someone traveling a long distance, some people can handle some of the pressure that comes with it, and maybe the pressure of tennis making him to vomit back-to-back. 29 degrees Celsius in the US at the moment, quite concerning. Just was it yesterday or thereabout, we saw Joao Fonseca of Brazil, 19-year-old, also vomit on court. Well, at 29 degrees Celsius, players are vomiting, and Jack Draper being one known for vomiting.
Well, I do not know how that transcends to vomiting. Temperature transcends to vomiting, because I personally have not witnessed that before. But I think it was a good win for Jack Draper now, because gradually he's been making that particular, a big statement as one of, British, top players. As a matter of fact, creating that particular milestone for others to follow. And I think it's something quite, handy for Jack Draper. Sadly, the progress so far hasn't really culminated into titles. Just as I've always said for other players who are doing quite well. Yes, we've been doing well, but, titles are not coming. But I still believe that if he keeps going this way, on a positive note, getting into competitions, going to the quarterfinals, the semi-finals, one day somehow, you could also, culminate into top titles. ATP 500, 1,000 Masters. That's something very handy for Jack Draper to win, which in no distant time, if this particular form continues, he will get to do that. But I think it was a good win. Unfortunately, maybe the next, level of this competition, if he gets to face, a top opponent, sometimes when you're vomiting, you may not be able to play that catch-up in terms of winning.
It could be the end of the road for him.
Absolutely. So
well, better not vomit again anywhere at the tournament. Well, quite a story with Jack Draper at this competition, British number one, building that momentum even further. And let's talk about our games that took place at early hours of the morning at the US Open. Today, it was Casper Norwegian International, 12-seeded, world number 12 in the world, beating of Swiss International 6-1, 6-2, 7-6 victory at the end of it. Lorenzo Mussetta would take on Pericat this afternoon at the Louis Armstrong Stadium. Pericat has been in pretty good form in recent tournaments to build up to this particular tournament. Let's see what he gets to do against a 10-seeded player, Musetti, in this one. Meanwhile, Amaldi of Italy also take on Sorondolo in this one in today's game. Would be something to talk about. Just like Diallo got a victory over Zumha in it. And quickly, let's move to the women's game. Excitement that comes in the women's game will build differently. Well, it would be the fact that Kreshikova defeating Mboko in the Marquis US Open first round. Well, to David, we've talked, rather funny thing now, we've seen Mboko in recent times now adding up the number and then build up to this competition. I don't know which competition it was, but she was quite good. I think she got to the finals of it. DC Open, Montreal, one of those, absolutely. Got to the finals. Did she win it?
Yeah, she won.
Yeah, absolutely. A young star in that direction, but that could only count for something, especially when you go to the US Open. And now she's taking on Kreshikova, but Kreshikova got a victory over Mboko at the US Open. What a big girls matter. Mboko was found wanting so early in it.
Well, I think it's always quite sad when you have young, rising tennis stars like this get to meet top level opponents in the very first round of Grand Slams. I always see if it's always good for you to have lesser quality opponents, to start to build that consistency, start to build that, grind, find your groove before you get to the face top opponent. But she had a baptism of fire at the US Open, having to face a player in the level of Krejcikova in the first round. Yeah. I think she could have done better. I know Mboko. I don't know Mboko, but I've watched that.
I love the correction because I was coming for you. How you know Mboko?
I think she's quite good. But this is going to be a minor setback for me. I think she's going to be one of those players we will look for in the next season. The next WTA season will be Mboko, the likes of Mboko, Mira and Trevor. Those are the players to look forward to next season.
Well, Trevor David, you don't think it's so early for Mboko, and that's one funny thing. I'm really talking tall for her. Yes, she did well at the tour level, at that level, but at the US Open, a fast start against Kreshikova being found wanting. Yeah. And you're talking about Mira and Trevor being in that same level.
Well, I think it's quite a case of, the lady Mboko, debuting in her first Grand Slam, particularly as a teenager. If you could recall, in the tournament where she won at the Montreal Open, I talked about temporary setbacks because I know it would definitely come. When you're having this honeymoon period where you get, beat every single person that comes, to you, and then you have a particular setback that just trips in.
Yeah, biggest expectations coming after a tournament and big one. People are looking at it. Pressure begins to come in.
It demand mental strength now to, be able to, get away from that defeat as quick as possible, get back on your feet and start competing at
You think she's gotten the mental fortitude?
Well, I can't say at the moment because this is the first setback and it happened at the bigger stage. So I just wish she would be able to do that in another tour level competition.
Well, many hopes from Mboko, a young star. The parents moved from Congo to the Western world, and somehow they found their balance, making a name for herself in the previous tour level tournament. Expectations for the young superstar. Well, Trevor David talks about mental fortitude. Let's hope that she can recover and be such a big superstar moving forward. Quickly still within the US Open, it would be the fact that Madison Keys had to suffer a shock US Open first round loss in this competition. When you talk about Madison Keys, such a big name, a big profile in it, but she's lost it. Well, let's talk about another US player that's lost it. I hate it on the sports wrap-up. Funny thing, Mochova getting better Venus Williams. And I listened to Venus Williams said, well, she's loved to keep fit, and that's why she's back and having healthy competition. But another loss early in the US Open.
Well, I think for Venus Williams, she already mapped out her way to the US Open since the DC Open. Announced that she's coming back to play tennis, and a lot of tennis fans were happy because the US Open is like home to her. It's a tournament where she's also had some level of success. So it was not something we're not going to see. So at the end of it, I think facing a top level opponent like Caroline Muchova, I think it was always going to be difficult for Venus Williams. Not forgetting that DC Open, she beat world number 35 Peyton Stearns. But when it comes to Carolina Muchova, I think it's a step higher. But she actually won a set. That's something very, something she should look forward to. I'm sure she's going to think, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can compete at other tour level competitions. But the question now is, would she be able to juggle family? Remember, she's gotten engaged now, so probably she's going to have some family duties. The question is now, can she go back to hitting the road, hitting the gym, get into training regularly to compete at tour level competitions at the very highest level of it. But I think she's done so well for herself at the US Open. She's shown fans all around the world that I've still got the quality. But at the end of it, I just think she should consider her time done with this. We don't want to see Venus Williams get beaten more and more and more.
Well, Funny is saying maybe it's time for her to call it quits. Well, I know it's when.
So
well, she returned in the way. She do it again.
I just feel for her, it's more like exhibition games. I mean, she's not competing for trophies, just like you mentioned. She's trying to keep fit for herself, basically. So
keep fit at the tournament. You can go to the gym and keep fit.
Yeah, she can actually. She's enjoying what she's doing. That's why she's actually, engaging in it, trying, to play, different faces. I mean, it's quite different when you hit the gym. You're just training with yourself. Maybe personally, your personal trainer. But right here in games,
when you compete at the biggest stage of tennis, the U.S. Open, that is something. You have to be competitive.
Let's be real. Venus Williams at over 40. I mean, she's not going to compete for titles.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. She's taking the place of other young contenders because she received a
wild card, definitely.
Exactly.
Maybe that could also be something to account for. But I think technically she's not even competing for any laurel, even if she partakes in competitions.
Well, it's basically what it is. Venus or Williams partaking in competition, not competing for laurels, because the conversation is have to be competitive at this level of it. Well, let's talk about another woman now. Just as we talked about Venus Williams, and many are asking probably it's time for her to quit or call her quit. Let's talk about a woman that's emotional about losing the U.S. Open and they're saying bye-bye to tennis. Well, we're talking about Petra Kvitova bidding an emotional farewell to tennis as she ended a lustrous career and with a first-round defeat at the U.S. Open, 35 years of age, suffered 6-1, 6-love, lost to France's Diana Perry, especially a field grandstand stadium on Monday. Quite sad, but it's end of the road for her to be there for Petra Kvitova now. While former two-time Wimbledon champion Petra Kvitova calling it an end in the world of tennis after being beaten in the first round, 6-1, 6-love. That's no competition really. 6-1, 6-love at the U.S. Open. She has to call it quit.
Well, it looks like she wasn't even prepared for the U.S. Open in total. Well, I think she had, of course, quite a good career. I mean, when
at 35 years of age.
Yeah, when you're a two-time, Wimbledon champion, it certainly shows that at some point in your career you were at top level. I think, unfortunately, when she was about 28, I could recall when she had one, bad injury like that, so went out for about 6 months, came back, and she's been struggling since then. And then we're talking about family matters as well for Kvitova, which could also, split your attention, especially as an athlete. So I could understand, of course, at the moment, she also feels her body cannot carry it anymore, and she's, calling it quits at the moment. A brilliant career she's had, I must say. Far away from sports now, looking at all the, of course, dimensions of life and continuing her path from there.
Continuing apart from there is that conversation from Mutuba David. Well, when you look at the world of tennis, these are the games that took place at the U.S. Open, and what we want to really look forward to. Well, Mira Andreeva got the better of Pax even further. A 6-love, a 6-1, a victory for Mira Andreeva. And other games will be taking place today. Would be Lamens against Glossman and Beatrice Haddad-Mayer of Brazil, 18-seeded player, take on Cartel of Great Britain, and Katie Bolter of Great Britain against 27-seeded player. We'll talk about Kostuk's in this one. And that's the outlook we're looking at. And quickly to the world of cricket. Before we get to talk about it, talking point of the world of cricket for me is that the likes of Oyeda has been named. The like Oyeda, the coach of a side, talking about Nigeria's female yellow green, naming the likes of Pierre